Well, welcome to Vancouver. Here I am messing with the timeline. This episode is finishing up a couple of last minute projects before we head out cruising to here, where I am now. Watch. Hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. My name is Peter and this good looking fellow here is Geordie, and we live together on a classic wooden motor cruiser in Victoria, British Columbia, all the while fixing it up for some pretty extensive cruising. If that's the sort of thing you might be interested in, why don't you consider sticking around and subscribing? We'd love to have you. Yes, puppy boy. Well, hey there, if you'd like your very own Travels with Geordie t-shirt, just stick around to the end of the episode and we'll show you how you can win one. These are stainless steel snap davits. What they basically are quickly removable hinges that attach the dinghy to the swim grid, and then you just tip it up. You've seen it everywhere, well, like that one, or well, that's the only one I can see from here. But you've seen it if you've gone boating. The dinghy is tipped up on the transom. Now, my wooden boat sensibility says that's butt ugly. But it's a hard shell dinghy, which means it has a beautiful little lap straight bottom. It's a semi-appropriate dinghy for the boat, and it'll very rarely be tipped up, only when at sea. Anyway, I don't need to go on about this. We're going to do it. It's not ideal, but there's lots of positive stuff to it. I'll get into in detail. Okay, so the dinghy davits. This is the sort of thing that is actually immensely frustrating because they're not really the right davits for this boat or this swim grid because of the extreme curve. Is that shear? No, shear. Anyway, curve to the gunnel of the dinghy and the reasonable curve to the side of the swim grid. I'm not going to be able to put them as far apart as I'd really like to because the gap just gets too wide. Yeah, let's get to it. First thing, let's center the boat, the dinghy, on the swim grid, and to do that we'll measure the length of the boat. 56.5 into the transom is 51. That is 54, puts it right about there. Now, centering the boat perfectly on the swim grid may not be all that meaningful because one end is pointy and one end has a motor hanging off the end of it. I don't know if this is for aesthetic or for getting into docks, whatever. I'm going to start there and we'll see what makes the most sense. In many ways, the motor should be at that end. And I'll tell you why. Almost always dock port side, which means the motor would be away from the dock and protected. I think I'm going to turn this whole project around. So the boat goes right about there. Smaller dinghy, bigger boat. I don't know why there are so many planes today. Okay, so when it's centered, you can see the bow is a good 6 inches proud of the stern of the boat. So one will have to be a little bit careful approaching docks with it hanging out there. Hope this is a good idea. We do have this is a 9.5 foot mintow. We also have a 7 foot mintow, but that is just so small. Okay, so here I go. I'm spending half this project shirtless, but I won't put you through that. Okay, so I have lashed the dinghy so that it's centered, lined up with the boat and the transom. I have also put a line taut down the very center line of the dinghy, and that's to make sure that when I put the davits on, the hinge point of the davit is exactly the same distance from the center line on both the bow and the stern. Otherwise, I'll end up, sorry Kim, with that. And that's like that for a reason, but I'd really like to be able to not do that. So in an effort to do this as non-destructively as possible, I may have to move you a bit here, sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use these gaps in the gunnel here and run them down onto, just put a piece of white oak underneath for now that I've drilled with matching holes. That will clamp it around the gunnel, the clamp. What I need to confirm is that this is equidistant from the center line with both options I have. So I'm going to think I can put it in that bay, and to remember where that is, I'm going to put a piece of tape on it because I'd hate to do this all and then end up in the wrong spot. So that's the bay at the front. Now if we at the stern, if we go to the other end, I'm going to say It looks like it's this bay right here. So now the thing is to figure out, once these are in this position, how far they are from the center line. That requires a tape measure, and that certainly requires not dropping any of this in the ocean, because stainless steel is non-ferrous. You can't pick it up with a magnet. 23 inches from the center line. Let's see what it is at the back. 24 inches. Wow. That's closer than I thought I'd end up. Okay, so I'm going to have an inch of tilt between the two. There's another factor. It's driving me crazy. That would only work if the gunnel was at the same plane bow to stern, but it's not, because traditional dinghies like this are higher in the bow than they are in the stern. So when it folds up, I'm going to have a taller block on the hinge at the bow than at the stern. I don't know how much yet, because I haven't decided exactly where the dinghy should be sitting in the water. Should it be sitting with weight in it so that when you latch in it stays horizontal? Or should it be sitting horizontal when it's empty so that when you're leaving it, it's not floating up in... This is way too much to think about, but I can't stop. Okay, let's take into account the shear. How exactly yet? I'm not sure. Give me a minute. Okay, the stars might actually be in alignment here. So, it's 24 inches from the pivot point to the center of the boat at the stern end. It's 23 inches from the center of the boat to the hinge point at the bow end. Okay, so that means when I flip the dinghy up, it's going to be sitting higher in the stern and look about ugly. But there's a way to improve that. All I have to do is raise the hinge at the bow end 1 inch so that it'll compensate for that. And it's the bow where the shear is higher anyway. Maybe it'll work out just perfect. Let's have a look. This is a bit overkill, but at least it is straight. I've reconfirmed the back. It's 3 1/4 with this, and it is 4 1/4. So all I have to do is make the block on this side 1 inch higher. Okay, let's get going. I thought I measured this. I'm shy. I just can't quite get a nut on. Alright, I've been to the hardware store and I've bought longer bolts and a bunch of other things I'm gonna need. Alright, here we go. Okay, so that's ready to go. It tips back and out of the way. Comes back. It's got its latch action. Okay. Okay, so now to find the actual height that these want to be at. The dinghy is relatively level. Let me have a look here again. About there. About there. Now, this is not an exact science, especially as the waves come and go. I'm going to say, 2.5 inches. 2 1/4 maybe. 2 1/4 is awesome because that's 3 times 3/4. Alright then, so I've got the blocks in at this side. Okay, so take that apart, drill it, and we're pretty close to trying it. Okay, yeah, that's heavy. I'll tell you, one of the reasons it's heavy is because it's been in the water for 2 months. Yeah, that'll help a little bit. Okay, well, it works. You know, this is the biggest concern, that this is sticking out actually beyond the boat. But one would think that if you always have fenders, I don't know. Clean the bottom, move to the next stage. So fundamentally, the dinghy is just too big. Too heavy, too long, and too big. The big cantilever, the big nasty blocks. The fact that the boat dinghy is 6 inches proud of the boat. You ever have a really good idea and you stick with it and you persevere and you get it done, only to realize that it was a really bad idea? And that's the way a dinghy should sit. Well, for me anyway. Okay, on to bigger and better things. Woohoo, more goodies. What do we have here? Oh yes, oh yes. It's what I was hoping for. It's our flag set. Hey, look at that. Okay, it's an indulgence. It's a pretty cheap little flag set, but It's actual little flags in it. I love it. So with dinghy disappointments aside, it's back down into the engine bay, primarily to install this beautiful alternator, but I have another couple of projects to do down there, which I'll share with you. One is kind of fun. Okay. Out with the old, which actually is relatively new. Brand new, AC Delco, 65 amp. Yeah, it'd be nice to have the 120 amps, but I really don't want to lose the fan belt, which is also the water pump belt, etc. So toss this puppy in and call it done. Yeah. There we go. Okay, if you've ever been boating and you got salt spray up on the windshield, definitely that's pretty annoying, the way that just turns into a white cloudy mess. Why don't boats have windshield washers? Well, I know some do, but this one doesn't, or it didn't. Hey, isn't that cool? Now I realize my simulated saltwater spray didn't make a completely opaque windscreen before I washed it off again, but it's the best I could do on short notice. Let's see how I did it. Alright, so the windshield squirt system is just going to use fresh water out of the boat's freshwater system, and this is the main pump, the filter, and so this is high pressure, modest, ridiculously low domestic water pressure. So I'm going to tap in right here with, this little Rube Goldberg. Basically, it's a solenoid controlled water valve, a bunch of fittings to go to 1/2-inch PEX, and a fitting to go to 1/4-inch barb, which will be rubber tube that goes all the way forward to the windshield. So I just want to find a place to put this tidy down here. I'll have to tee into this, and somewhere where it's serviceable, but not too in the way. So let's play with that for a little bit. So I'm going to install this in a relatively inconvenient place if I just temporarily put this on here. This is freshwater pressure, cold, so I'm actually going to put it against the beam here underneath. You can't see it. I won't put you through it. I'm going to tee into it right here, and I'll show you when it's done. Okay, so wiring that up, my nice tidy panel was a joy. Absolutely fantastic. Let's see if we can squirt some water. Okay, so there's the solenoid valve connected to the water system, and this is the hose that'll go forward to the windshield. I just got to play with it, see if water comes squirting out of there. You watch. That's pretty cool. Now it's true, it probably would have been more sort of period elegant to have some kind of big brass or bronze pump to do that, or at least some kind of little valve or something, but I did just connect it to a push button on the dash. Cool, okay, we're not done, not even close. There's the solenoid set up. Here's the tube, come back to it, a little hose clamp, tidied up the wiring, doesn't look too bad. And for those of you who were so concerned, I have removed the nasty wire nuts here and replaced them with proper heat shrink butt connectors. And all the wiring from here forward is much improved. Not real pretty, but the tubing has exited the sole there. I'll work our way up under here and up into this, which is a wire chase, up into the overheads, across, and pop out at the windshield spot. I worked for an hour trying to chase it down behind the ceiling here. I was successful in chasing wire in the past, but I could not do it, and I just was getting too fed up. So in time in the future I may improve it, but in the meantime this is going to come up along here. Okay then, well, editing up the video about the windshield squirt, I've discovered that I neglected to put my shirt back on for much of it, and there's no way you want to see any of that. So all the footage of me running hoses around up here, these little rubber hoses that come out of here and out through the windshield, are basically not very interesting, unusable, but I'll explain what it is. Basically the hose came up at the corner to a T and back out through the windshield here in 1/4-inch copper tubing. Let's go outside, I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so what I did out here, basically just a 1/4-inch copper tubing, just comes out through a 1/4-inch hole in the windshield frame, and bent down, pinched a little bit to get a bit of a fan spray. I'm not sure this is how I'm going to leave it. It works really well right now. I'm not sure I'm really happy with the way it looks. I'd love to find some cast bronze fitting of some sort, but in the meantime, it's certainly suitable and does the trick. Cheers. Well, I gotta say, this little windshield squirt project went really well. It's just so fun. And no real problems other than that little bit of tubing that I couldn't hide as it came out of the floor. No problem at all. Now, on to the next project, which is no fun, and I won't drag you along. It is realigning the propeller shaft. The engine's been in. For those of you who don't know, this boat's been repowered about a year ago, and it's only got a couple of 100 hours, no, not even 100 hours maybe. And it's time probably to make sure that the prop shaft is still aligned, the flanges, and it's in a miserable place. So go talk amongst yourself, have a beer, something like that. Cheers. Well, hello and welcome to Beer of the Week. This week from beautiful Granville Island in Vancouver. We're at the Vancouver Wooden Boat Festival, so the timeline's a little bit messed up. Because I'm in Vancouver, went back to Brassneck Brewery, one of my favorite little craft breweries, and this is a really great beer. It's called Passive Aggressive. I don't really find it very aggressive. It's a dry hopped pale ale. And it's just a nice rounded beer with lots of extra flavor. So let's pop this open and see what we think of this. Pours quite light. We'll put our little head on the end of that. There we go. Doesn't that look nice? Proper outdoor sunny weather drinking beer. Oh yeah. Hopped, but not overly hopped, just enough flavor, a little bit of floral in there, almost a little bit of citrus. Very, very yummy. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank this week's new patrons, Rick Loring and Andrew Naminga. Thank you so much for coming aboard. I'm very, very grateful. Cheers to you. And from the beginning of the video, we mentioned that if you hung out till the end, you might have an opportunity to win a Travels With Geordie t-shirt, and yes, you can. All you have to do is leave a comment down below with this week's special word, which is steam. Steam, as in vaporized water. And steam is in honor of this extraordinary hand-built little steam launch. This gentleman built the engine by hand and then built the boat around it. It's just a fantastic thing, and it's been the highlight of the show. Steam.